roundtable that we have organized for this Festival de la Diplomazia. The title is Earth Observations, a bridge to offer quality services to user needs, the case of Africa. We have a very high quality panelists, Professor Phil Miara, who is the Director General of Science and Technology Department of the South African government. Engineer Paolo Minciacchi, who's the CEO of eGeos, a Telespazio Asi company. Dr. Maurice Bourgeot is the head of the Earth Observation Department, Science Application and Climate of ESA ESRI. And Professor Vito Pascazio, who's the former Dean, Faculty of Engineering at Università Partenope, and presently is the main coordinator of EOS Safari, which means Earth Observations Space Academy and Laboratory for Africa Research Innovation Project. Why Earth observations? Because they are becoming more and more the strongest tool that we have to take into account all the problems which need to be solved in favor of the user needs of each country. Monitoring, check, and also providing suggestions in function of the results that Earth observations do provide to the people in the field. I don't want to go in more detail on that because the European Space Agency is particularly keen in this activity. And so we will have Maurice providing us a lot of very useful information. I'm very glad now to present my friend, Phil Miara, who, among other things, he was, as I was, the head of the South African country in the GEO, in the Intergovernmental Group on Earth Observations. We spent together 10 years, and despite of that, we have still remained friends, which is not easy, and particularly taking into account my particular way of living and his particular way of living. Phil, please go ahead.
Yes, thanks very much. Thanks, Ezio, and I'm grateful to be part of this panel. My slides are quite big with text, but I will not go through all the text, and hopefully you'll be able to follow the main message of the presentation without having to read each and every word. But I'll try and stick to the 10 minutes or so that you've got given me. So next slide. I'd like to talk about three things. The Earth observation in South Africa, and I'll touch later with the programs that we have in the continent to give you a flavor. And then specific Earth observation engagements in South Africa. So I'll go through quite a plethora of the work that is done by the Space Agency, of course, supported by ourselves. And then I will talk about what you asked of me. Ezio, can I say a few words about some of the needs that we have in Africa so that you can have a sense of what the thinking is. So the next slide is a slide that is trying to just say we see space playing a very important role in South Africa to address inequality. It also helps us to address poverty. You will see an example of how we've used it to track human settlement development. We also use it for spatial planning, and this is used generally in the whole of government. And then it's a sector that is employing quite a large number of people, engineers, highly trained scientists, which we train, and then they find themselves in the industry. So this is just a slide to say that it addresses the key problems of government. Next slide. So we do have a national space policy, which is an instrument of one of our sister departments, the Department of Trade, Industry, and Competition. And the purpose of the policy is to provide principles and guidance that we will use outer space for peaceful purposes. And then we develop and maintain a robust and appropriate set of space capabilities, services, and products to support national priorities. And we use the space environment, and will ensure that all public and private sector activities are conducted in accordance with national legislation, and then we work fairly closely with industry. And then, of course, you will see at the bottom that we do want to work fairly closely with our counterparts in the rest of the continent, and we have a very strong and robust international cooperation program as well. Next slide. So the vision is for South Africa to be among the leading nations in the innovative utilization of space sciences and technology that enhances economic growth and sustainable development to improve the quality of life. And then we would like to empower better decision making through the integration of space-based systems with ground-based systems. So we look at both in situ but space as well. We want to develop applications, and then we also would like to capture a certain global market share for small to medium-sized space system. And I will share with you how far we've gone in that objective number 3. Next slide. So we have a very clear South African Earth observation strategy that coordinates the collection, assimilation, and dissemination of Earth observations so that their full potential to support policy decision-making, economic growth, and sustainable development happens in South Africa. So I think the next slide tries to show you an example of how we have used Earth observation to assist government in ocean governance and marine protection, which is part of our blue economy. Next slide. So what we will be showing in the next slide, as you can see, is a system that we have developed, which is called the National Oceans and Coastal Information Management System, and a system that is operational for oceans and coast monitoring. As you can see, Africa has a very, very long coastline, both on the eastern side as well as on the west side. And the next slide shows the constellation of small satellites that are orbiting polar satellites. So it's a constellation of nanosatellites, and it enables fresh data that we then pick up in order to monitor what is happening on the sea. So we would like to track the vessels that are there, and then also to provide information if we feel there's anything on our oceans that we shouldn't have, and then this information is provided immediately to the Coast Guard. So we have 3 of these nanosatellites that have been manufactured in South Africa at one of our universities, the Cape Peninsula University of Technology. And we have now signed off to have, I think, another 5 of these constellation of nanosatellites to make sure that the coverage of the area is reduced with satellites that are orbiting in a constellation. Next slide. So we also have a space infrastructure hub, which will be shown in the next slide, where we take, as you can see, the satellites that are orbiting, and we have good ground stations in South Africa, one in Hartebeeshoek, another one in, excuse me, in Grabo on the southern side of South Africa. And the objective is the development of suitable space application products and services that directly respond to the user needs. So you will see then a whole set of processing capability once we have this from the dish, and we archive the satellite imagery, and then we develop products that are needed by a range of government departments as well as the private sector. Next slide. So this is an example of one of the biggest challenges we have in South Africa, which is tracking the development of human settlements. And it shows, as you can see, the number of human settlements that are developing in this part of South Africa over a period of time. And you can track how quickly these are developing. And you can also see whether these human settlements are in the right land that is zoned for human settlements. So this is the work that we have done and provided to the Department of Human Settlements. Next slide. We also play a very, very important work on space weather, and you will see in the next slide the work that we have been doing in one of our premises, which is located in Hermanas on the Cape. It's the only space weather in Africa, and then its operational capability meets the requirement of the International Civil Aviation Organization. As you know, when the flights fly, they have to have space weather information, and we are one of the centers, part of the global network of these centers that provide information to the civil aviation industry. Next slide. So you would probably not know that on the very southwestern part of South Africa, where the space weather is located, it's a very magnetically clean environment. And then we use it for space science expertise and then for quality assurance of data. The space weather is operational, and we then are already starting to provide information to the aviation industry. We also have geophysical instrumentation network for measuring space from the ground in this station. And then it's we also have a state-of-the-art base in Antarctica and the Marion Islands. So these are the islands that are around the southwestern part of South Africa. So this is a very, very good program that we have in South Africa. Next slide. We also have regional perspective of work where we are a member of the International Space Environment Service Provision. And then we have representation on the World Meteorological Organization, UN COPUOS, International Aviation Organization that I talked about. And then there's high quality regional data that is benchmarked with international databases to deliver accurate world research information. The next slide also, I think we will skip this slide because what we're saying is that through the space weather, we are contributing to the African development agenda. Next slide. So we also utilize space science to develop solutions for Africa. And this is a slide that shows the Ionosphere map that is being utilized for monitoring the conditions under which communications are established. So you can see the areas where communication satellites or any communication infrastructure could be heavily affected because of the Ionosphere conditions. Next slide. So we also have collaboration with a number of countries in Namibia, in Zambia, Kenya, Nigeria, Ethiopia, and Uganda as well. And you can see what we do with these countries on this slide. I don't think I'll go through this detail. Next slide. So we also are part of a network, next slide, of the Mercury Network that is measuring mercury in the southern part. Next slide. Southern part. This SUMNET phase 1 helps us to then contribute to the ambient mercury within the southern part of the continent. And it's an infrastructure that we have upgraded at the cap point, very, very, very low. And then we already have trained some students for FMSC. We collect data for modeling mercury and sampling, passive sampling of mercury in different provinces to identify hotspots. I think we can skip the next slide because I think it just talks about the objectives of this Mercury network. We are part of a network globally that then provides the information on the developments of these activities. I think it's the detail around this. I think we can skip this one as well, go to the next one. We also are part of the Pan-African University Institute in Space in South Africa. So we host, therefore, the Pan-African University on Space Sciences, where we train for the rest of the continent young people who would like to get involved in space science, both in the applications engineering as well. Next slide. So this is the model of the Pan-African space science. It links a number of universities that you see here with applications, as you can see, Durban University of Technology on the right-hand side on navigation and positioning, space physics, UCT, Northwest University, UKZN, and Cape Peninsula University of Technology, and Stellenbosch and Fort Hare University of Pretoria. So you can see that it's a model that brings a number of universities together to perform the activities of space that are shown in this slide. Thank you. Next slide. So we also have an African space policy, and again, the objectives are shown in the slide. In the interest of time, I'm not going to go through this, because I think the last activity that I just want to share with you is AfriGeo, which will be shown in the next slide. So these are initiatives of the African space strategy that we have, which have 1 year, 5 year, and 10-year outcomes. Again, you can please read this through your own spare time. Next one. So this is another work that we do. We have an AfriGeo working group which we support with the South African National Space Agency and the Africa Geo Secretariat. And then, of course, we played a very, very important role during COVID-19, where we shared some national and institutional COVID-19 monitoring in response to COVID-19. So I think that's the message here, but I think the next slide also shows some of the work that we're doing in AfriGeo. Next slide, please. And the achievements to date that we have had are shown here, where we've had a number of activities with participating organizations within the continent that have been looking at identifying, for instance, hotspots and critical data sets that we have provided, as well as helping the response of COVID-19. Next slide. So in terms of the national and regional needs, they are shown here. We are looking at the support for in situ data and, of course, satellite data, co-development of tools that can support our regional data cube by Digital Earth Africa, collaborative mentorship programs for youth and women, capacity development arrangements are aligned to AfriGeo priority actions that are shown there, and capacity building in emerging trends on big data analytics, machine learning, artificial intelligence, and robotics, amongst others.
Phil, excuse me. Can we stop here and we go deeper in the second run?
That's the last slide, actually, Ezio. Thank you very much.
Okay, perfect. Because what it is important also is clear that in addition, people would be probably very interested to have a better idea in more detail of GeoAfrica, which is an action very important. And also what it appears is more and more there is the problem of big data, the use of artificial intelligence and how to manage big data. So these could be surely another theme about which we should discuss or together. Maurice, à toi la parole. No.
Can you hear me? Can you? Perfect. Let me try to share my screen here. Okay, do you see my screen?
Pour l'instant, c'est du black.
Oh, okay. What about now?
Still black, nice black, but it's black.
Oh shoot! So it doesn't work the way. Okay.
Voilà.
So
Voilà.
I hope now it should be okay. Huh? Okay. Perfect. Okay, sorry for that. So, well, first of all, I'm very delighted and honored to be part of this panel, and I would like to thank you, Ezio, very much to have invited me, so we can present our activities at the European Space Agency linked to Africa. So if I go here a bit, I'm going to skip this one because of the time here. Unfortunately, I'm not in the video mode, so let me go via the video here. What we are doing here at ESA is really trying to take the pulse of the planet here with our series of satellites, but also using the satellites from sister agency, NASA or JAXA and others. We can develop, this type of information here. You see different maps here of the Earth here. Might it be for chlorophyll? Might it be gravity field? Might be sea level rise? Might it be for ozone hole that you see at the bottom here? And we can do it today using Earth observation data here. I think very, very important here is the fact that, let me see if I can move to the next slide. Yes, here it's what we have developed here at the European Space Agency, starting, I think our first satellite was in 1978 here. Important for you is to see here what's coming here in the so-called Copernicus. Copernicus is the equivalent of the Galileo program that we are developing with the European Commissions here. And it's a very large number of satellites that are flying and that are being developed here. I would not like to underestimate what we do in the science part, but it's really to push the frontiers of science here with the so-called Earth Explorer, and of course the meteorological satellites that we do together with EUMETSAT in Darmstadt here. But the core of the activities are really linked to what we could do for Africa in terms of Earth observation is linked to the Sentinel or the Copernicus program. Here you see the number of satellites that are flying currently here. It will be 6 and 7 next week with Sentinel 6A here. But more important is, together with the Commission, is to get the insurance that the system is operational and sustainable. So for the coming, 10 years here, we have all the series of the Sentinels coming up. All these satellites have been approved, are being developed here, the Sentinels, and we are looking now together with the European Commissions. We are talking 2028 here to launch quite a new constellation, which is called the High Priority Candidate Missions here. Now, again here, let me show, because this was also nicely shown by Phil here, but this is the, this is Sentinel-2 here. This is the coverage, just, some basics of celestial mechanics here. You have a swath, 290 kilometers, seen by the satellites here. The Earth turns at the same time. So you see the coverage after 1 day here. And, it takes time. We are talking of 10 or 20 meters spatial resolution. And after 5 days, only after 5 days, using, 2 satellites, Sentinel-2 here, A and B, you have a full coverage here. So it takes some time. And of course, this assumes here that you don't have any cloud coverage here, because at least for optical, this will have an impact. But the key point, every 5 days here, you are, it's an operational system, not only for research, but also for developing applications for the industry. And I'm delighted to see also EGO's representative. They know that they have a commitment and will have these satellites for the coming 10 years here. You were talking earlier, Ezio and Phil, about large amount of data. Yes, I can confirm here. This is just the number of data that we have over Africa using Copernicus. This is per year approximately 1 or slightly 1 petabyte currently. It will be more very likely here. Currently in our database, we have our servers, we have more than 3 petabytes. I recall petabyte is 1 followed by 15 0 here. So it's definitely, the issue about big data is coming more and more here. Okay, satellites data is not only about pretty pictures, okay, that you can display on in your room here, but it's really, you can extract informations, you can derive services, and you can bring useful information to decision makers. And of course, everyone was talking about, COVID, was affected by COVID, or unfortunately still affected by COVID. And what we have developed together with the European Commission, we did a rapid action to see what can be done using Earth observation data during COVID here. We have done this mainly over Europe, but we are extending this worldwide. And if you go on this website here, you will see some example of, this is Pretoria. We are talking about South Africa here before the pre-lockdown and during the pre-lockdown. And what you are seeing here is the concentration of NO2, the nitrogen dioxide, which is, about pollution, but also about, a proxy for human activity. And of course, you see that during the lockdown here, like it was shown for several place over Europe here, of course, you have less and less red here. So it's really, this type of information that you can provide, you can give to the decision makers here. We were talking also about, I think this was one of the key points, as you hear, about user engagement and links to the user, the African community here. We have done plenty of events. We are working very, very closely with the African Union Commissions here. You've seen some examples here on this image here that we have done. There was some large events here in Milano last year, but also that we organized in our committee here. And this is some quote here from chairman of the what we call our science committee here at ESA here. And the key point is, we want the African scientists, we want the community to work together here, and we are doing this based on user requirements that are coming from the African community here. Just some examples here, that I would like to illustrate what can be done using EO satellites, especially the Copernicus. Here, two examples. This is burned area here. This also affects Africa. Here, it's not only in South America. Recently, there were examples last year over the Brazilian forest here. But just to show the importance here of having the right tools to observe this, and those are two examples. This is using Sentinel-2. Sentinel-2, we are, achieving 20 meters spatial resolution, sometimes 10, depending on the mode here, but we're using 20 meters. And in the past, this was done by MODIS. This is an instrument about Terra. This is a NASA satellite, which was, a fantastic instrument, but had only 500 meters. And you can look at this using, thermal bands here. I don't want to go in details here, but in order to look at the different type of fires and also the size of the fires, you will see that, using Sentinel-2 here at 20 meters, you see much more fires. You see much more red here that was, that you see on the MODIS image here. So the importance here of having the right tool, the right instrument, and also the right spatial resolutions here. Some other examples here. This is actually the same here for over the world here. And if the image here the animation doesn't work, but you normally should be able to see the difference between 2018 and 2019 here. And 2018, of course, you see many fires in Africa. At the time it was more in South Africa, but you will see the variations here between 2018 and 2019. Unfortunately, I'm sorry, the animation doesn't work in this mode here. Now, let's go to the next slides here. Sorry, I lost control of the mouse here. Let's see if I can get it again here. Okay, here we are. This also an example here what you can do. We are talking of continental coverage. And Africa is huge here. It's 30 million square kilometers here. And just to show, what we did, I think this was done during the whole year 2016. We continuously acquired Sentinel-2 images here. We are talking 20 meters spatial resolution. We needed 180,000 images to make this map here, and you can make a very useful land cover map here. You see different, the color tables here from, of course, the Sahara here doesn't show a lot here in terms of this land cover map here, but all the other regions, show quite a diversity here of land cover here. One more example here that, again, here, this goes way beyond what we, pretty images here. It's, and it's linked to the SDG here, SDG 6.4 linked to water here. What can be done using, Sentinel or Copernicus data in order to look at groundwater development. And we were talking earlier about the Sahara here. You see here, using these images and some algorithms which have been developed here, some type of map here where, where we can identify the so-called in green irrigation potential here. But of course, closer to the desert here, some regions which are red, which are not suitable for the irrigations here. But we can do, okay, this is the width of Africa. You see the size here, and this is the type of information that we can produce now. Another examples here, and this is Central Africa here. This is Kenya. This is the Lake Tonaka here. You may know in Kenya, this is just, south of Ethiopia. Here we have the Omun River, which comes here. There is a dam which is foreseen here, just above here, this river. And, closing the dam here will have an impact here in terms of fresh water on this lake here. This lake is huge here. And, we can look at the chlorophyll index here, and you see the different colors here, and which gives also some information about the salinity of the water. Of course, if the dam, doesn't let the water, or as much as it needed here, the water, the lakes here is going to become more acid. And this is the type of information that can be derived here. And I'm going to give you a last example. It's still linked to water here. It's also linked to the SDG here, 6 over Uganda here. But this is the type of information that can be derived here. You see different colors here between, of course, permanent water, which is lakes here or rivers here, some wetlands, some seasonal wetlands, and some occasional wetlands here. And this is the information, using Sentinel data here, using also other type of satellites here that you can develop at, national or even continental level here. And I think, Ezio, I could stop here. I have, a few more slides about the contents of our activities in the future, what we'd like to do in terms of Earth observation data use for Africa. But this could be done in a second round, as you wish.
Thank you. Perfect. Thank you very much. Just for your information, I have particularly appreciated the fact that you have mentioned several times how good is the activity of ESA concerning the identification of SDGs. This also because me, being also the head of the Italian delegation at the UNGGIM, we are, as Italy, as country, particularly concerned and committed in this activity. And I must say that Paolo Minciacchi, who's taking now the duty to talk, is contributing with his business, his activity, and his collaborators to the activity of the Italian delegation in UNGGIM. And I'm very glad to tell you that I've been informed that all the Italian delegation at UN New York plenary is now attending and watching what we are saying, as well as friends and colleagues from different Italian universities, and colleagues and friends also from the Prime Minister place in Rome. Please, Paolo.
Thank you, Ezio, for giving me the possibility to join to this fantastic and great event. And hello to all the partners, colleagues, and friends joining to this event. I will try to share my screen. Tell me if you
Not
see
yet.
now.
As we are all, okay, it's coming. Perfect. There we are.
Okay, so we go. So let's say I will try to give the point of view of the private sector, of the industry, and the way how the industry can, let's say, play a role in the future and development of Africa with the application and the work that has been done in, I would say, the last 20 years. But basically, to give you some figures, let's say currently in the geoinformation business, in the Telespazio Group, we are more than 600 people working together. Let's say more than the half is in Italy, is located in Italy. And then we have, let's say, in the frame of CLEOS, that is the entity built together by Telespazio and the Italian Space Agency, managing the distribution and commercialization of the Cosmos Skymet constellation. We have also, let's say, the control of an important company in Germany that is called GAF, that has a lot of activity dealing with the development of Africa, as we will see later on. And basically, let's say we are following the entire value chain to give you an idea, starting from operation of the constellation and say getting the satellite data, going through the analysis of the data and the integration with other layers and information, and then providing or services or platform to the user. For sure, using in doing this also artificial intelligence solution. So let's say I would say that we are playing the role of the technology and innovation developer in the field. At the end, we are also involved in providing consultancy services, mainly in the international funding institution and also in some activities related to the African. This is, let's say, I go more for picture than for words, but you can see how from collecting data, for example, the one from Sentinel, other one from Cosmo or other platform, you start to make your analysis. This is an application related to agriculture. And then at the end, the final results is to provide a report. So let's say in our experience, what we see is that most of the user does not need anymore the visibility of the original data, but they go for, via the value-added services, they go for a report, because the report is the one that provides the information that can be used by the different sectors and the different users. In this, let's say, look into this kind of making this kind of analysis and considering the needs, in time, we have developed a certain number of specific platforms. I would start from the bottom where you see CLEOS. In the last weeks, we have announced the go live of a new platform that is called CLEOS, that is at the end is a marketplace. And from CLEOS, you can easily access to the overall offer of the company. So satellite data, other layers, and other platform and services that we have developed in time. So it means that in a period like this one, also where you don't have the possibility to have immediate direct contact with your customer due to the COVID emergency, using this marketplace, everyone can access and have access to data, services, and also the possibility to build its own services. So I think that this is an important innovation in this moment that goes in the direction of the platform economy. And on top of it, I don't want to enter in detail on the different other platforms that we have developed, but as you can see, we cover more or less the most important verticals. So, for example, C is dedicated to the maritime surveillance. That is something that can fit perfectly what Phil has reported before with respect to their own application in South Africa. But we've also done an important job in the field of agriculture and precise agriculture, precise farming, and also in the part of the emergency management. All these, let's say, platform, you can use it as a service from remote, or can be installed directly in the user premises. Just a recall of the emergency management, just in the frame of the Copernicus program, we are always involved in these activities since years. We had a lot, more than 430 activation of this service. This is a 24/7 activities that we do in support of authorities, civil protection, European member states, when you have an emergency. And let's say, I have to say, I'm very proud of this service, because at the end is the way to use the Earth observation technologies, and also, let's say, the skill of the people that works in this field to help, let's say, the people, to have the society when there is an emergency. We also use this activity. We also did this activity during the COVID to support the Italian civil protection to identify sites where new hospitals, triage area could be built in the short term. So really, as a Europe, we have to be proud of the possibility to use technology to help society and to help the people. Some short example also from my side. This is something that was an analysis done for the flood in Togo. What we saw there is that it was possible to make an analysis heading not only, let's say, using not only the Earth observation data, so the satellite data, but also the layers of the area to identify infrastructure, roads, building, where we had problems due to the flood, and then help, say, giving the instruments to help the people there. And also to understand and to make an analysis of the situation, so situation awareness, and also the possibility to go there and to help the people in the flood. Other examples, let's say, that we can see here are related to the identification of indicator. Now, this is mainly related to forestry. But what we want to see is that using the Earth observation, using the algorithms for the analysis, and using the artificial intelligence, we are able to identify indicators that can give support to the overall sustainable, let's say, growth, the sustainable life in the future year, in line with the, let's say, the general programs and development programs. So I think that this is, I can go ahead with other examples. This is for let's say, the analysis that we did for reducing the emission and deforestation and degradation in the frame of the carbon credit analysis. And also this has been done for several countries in Africa by our subsidiary GAF. And you can see the list of areas, starting from Cameroon and ending to Gabon. For sure, this is also another interesting example of how technology can use, let's say, as the use of technology can help to make our life and our worlds better. This is another one. This is interesting because, let's say, it's using several different layers, so maps and geological analysis, to make a mapping of existing authorized and non-authorized mining sites in Africa. On top of it, what we see is that currently we have experience in using also technology based on the interferometric analysis to understand the development of the sites and also to understand if there are critical situations in the mining sites themselves. This is another example of how the Earth observation can be used not only to support, let's say, the life of the citizen, but also to support the economical growth and the safety of the workers inside the mining site. So let's say, to conclude, we start from it's called object detection, but we start from the data, then applying artificial intelligence, let's say algorithms, and let's say making analysis of what we can see as a difference, so anomaly detection, we can get and give the information, the final information to the user. And to be at the edge of technology, we have implemented inside our company, together with Leonardo, dedicated labs, mainly in the frame of the artificial intelligence. Because as you said at the beginning of this conference, we have a problem. We have the problem that is an happy one of having data in an amount that is difficult to manage. To do that, we have to rely on high power computing, for sure, cloud technology, but also in having algorithms coming from artificial intelligence that can help us to extract the real information that is needed. The challenge is here is that this information is very linked to the user. So sometimes the possibility to have a general approach is not feasible. But when they say the user is clear, the application is clear, and the vertical domain is clear, the usage of this new technology is fundamental for achieving the results and providing the information to the civil society and to the stakeholders.
Okay, Paolo, thank you very much. You have just mentioned several very important things. The one which touches me particularly, because I just read a new in the paper today concerning the mining sites management, it has been discovered that very, very often they are used kids up to 10 years, no more, for $2 a day. I don't think we need any comment on that. So really, once again, Earth observations may become a tool also to try to solve dirty situations. Phil, we go back to you now, and what we need to know in more detail is something about more deeply Geo-Africa, and in particular, so the other friends can answer to what you are saying now, which are the most urgent needs of Africa in Earth observations. Please.
Thanks very much, Ezio. As you know, in GEO, we propose the setting up of a regional GEOs. So we have something which we call AfriGeo. It has a secretariat based in Kenya at the RCMRD. And the purpose of AfriGeo is to look at Earth observation needs in the countries in Africa. And therefore, we have been funding the setting up of this structure where all the needs of the African countries are proposed, and then we then look at within the GEO family, what is it that we can do. So I was very impressed to see both from Paolo and from Maurice some of the satellite imagery that can be used, for instance, on deforestation, which is extremely important in some of the countries. One of the big challenges, as you know, in the continent relates to agriculture, and in particular, how we can do precision agriculture. So when I hear about the capabilities that have already been developed to do precision agriculture, especially in those countries where we have less water, that's a second challenge. But The third one is just the capacity building capabilities in different countries. As you know, we think that very few countries in Africa would have an interest in building satellites, but with good partnership of having the data and then use the data to support decision making, I think that's probably the biggest challenge, and where AfriGeos is sharing expertise and experiences between different countries on how the data that is made available. For an example, within ourselves in the space agency, as you know, we can have a coverage of data which can be distributed to all sub-Saharan Africa. So the data is not a problem. The problem is develop algorithms, capacities with Center for High Performance Computing to be able to provide decision makers with the data, with the decision that they need. As I've indicated, in South Africa, human settlements, ocean monitoring, agricultural activities, deforestation, depending on where you are in Africa. I hope that helps to give you a feel for what is it that we're trying to do through AfriGeo. Thanks very much, Ezio.
You're welcome, Phil. Thank you very much. Maurice, c'est à toi.
Can you hear me?
Sure.
Yeah, okay. I know we have seen many slides. I just have one slide to summarize here a bit, what we are doing currently here. And if you see the slides now.
Coming, yes, perfect.
Yes, okay. Now it's just, based on what I was saying, but also what the colleague also from EGO said, look, we have plenty of data. How do we move forward now? How do we get all this information in terms of the users and the decision makers, and also linked to what Phil was just saying in terms of capacity building here. And what we are discussing with our member states, or we had discussed with our ESA member state, and a program has been approved, or it's part of a program here. We call it EO Africa here, based on partnership and community building. Here we are working a lot, as I said, with the AUC, the African Union Commissions, but also we looked at GEO and what was said about AfriGeo here, to look at the user engagement, the networking here. How do we develop these special links with Africa here? And what do we do with this 1.2 petabyte of data that we have here every year over Africa? It goes, in the domain of research and development, to look at new applications here, to concentrate. I think water was mentioned. Food security is also very important here. Forestry, to look at this type of applications here. But more important, it's not only about research and development, but it's to make these tools to have an open access. Okay, we have all the Copernicus data are full, free, and open. That's the data policy which was decided and approved by the European Commissions here. But it's also to look at the resources, what can be done, linking with the existing capabilities in Africa here, to develop partnerships here. Universities are mentioned. Looking also at the bandwidth issues here, but I think this very, very soon is going to be overcome here. And then a key point is capacity and training. Capacity building here was mentioned several times by Phil, and this has been recognized here. There are quite some activities here from the MOOC, the massive online open course, but it goes way beyond that in terms of this partnership with African users. And what we have realized and what we are proposing here, looking at the amazing amount of data, it's not only the usual, if I may say, traditional method of transporting the data here, but it's really putting the users in front of the data here, bringing the users to the data here. They can develop their own algorithm here. This is processed and via cloud computing or ICT new capabilities here. And I think we are just at the beginning of fantastic new tools here, using platforms platforms using different type of services here, so that the data, the full-fledged of the information can be processed. Might it be with AI technology, might it be with different tools here, and bring this information back to the users and the decision makers. So this is what we have started this earlier this year. We are trying to implementing this. We started the first activities here, but the key point to me is what's mentioned on the top, is this partnership and this community building with the African users. And now I will stop here, Ezio. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Maurice. I would like just to stress the very important things that you said just before. Actually, what it is important, and this has been not only the ESA philosophy and position, but the Italian one in particular, is that it's working together. We are not going to the countries to provide the truth. On the contrary, we go to the countries to work together, sharing each country the competences, because we know, Phil, for example, many of your people or the Kenyan have taken their degrees in European, American, or Asian universities, which have exactly the same level and quality of our universities. So that really is a completely new approach somehow, but all in the general philosophy, at least within the European feeling. Other countries probably don't have exactly the same position, but I'm not mentioning them. Okay. Now, Paolo, do you want to integrate your intervention of the floor, please?
Sure, because several interesting topics have been addressed before me, so I would like to give some highlights of a couple of different models that we can follow. The first one was a reference to the precision farming, to agriculture. I can tell you that we have, in these fields, we have done a very interesting experience because we have a cooperation, a partnership with Bonifiche Ferraresi, that is the most important Italian company in the field of agriculture. And there, together with them, we have developed a platform that is using, let's say, several satellite missions to make an analysis for making an optimization of the agriculture activity. And an interesting result is that is the right way to make the right use of water. You can save, let's say, an important percentage of water using the Earth observation technology, and let's say also complemented with other technology, but mainly looking to the sustainability. And the results is very good, and is a practical one, so that together with our friends of Bonifiche Ferraresi, we want to export this technology, because at the end can give an help where water is an issue, and where the let's say also manpower can be an issue. The second aspect that I want to touch is the one of deforestation. We are working together with Censipam already in Brazil to make the analysis of the situation of Amazonia. And I think that also that model is a model that we can export easily, because also the problem of forestry is a worldwide problem. The last point that I want to touch is the working together. We have an experience in providing training to the North African expert already in the fields of geoinformation, because we have a cooperation with the University of Reggio Calabria. So we are already doing this. But let's say in our model, we are a business company, no? But in our business model, we have think to the possibility of working together. And what we have done is that we have, let's say, implemented a solution that starts from providing those services, for example, agriculture, for example, maritime surveillance from remote. So using our infrastructure, our teleport, our high power computing, and then providing only the results. But The evolution of this model is to bring in the country the complete platform, to bring a satellite receiver station, for example, for Cosmo, but not only for Cosmo, to bring there the platform and to provide their training services to the people working there, so that at the end you can make a complete technological transfer from what we do here in Italy, in Germany, and the other country to the Africa location, having the possibility to transfer the development the already developed application, but making training. And at the end, also building a liaison with the academic and university in Africa, because then the validation of the product must be done by them, because they are the real expert on the field, and they are the one that have to validate the product of our application. So services at the beginning, then infrastructure, plus training, plus liaison with academic for getting the final results.
Thank you very much, Paolo. Very useful. Is also a clear message of offer of collaboration among our country, our industry, and African entities and stakeholders. Last but not least is my colleague and friend Vito Pascazio, who will present to all of you a project that we have built up and that we have presented to ESA. We don't know if this will be chosen or not, but this is definitely a project which takes into consideration everything that we have said in this meeting, and in particular taking into account the presentation that Maurice Bourgeot did. Vito, vai. No, sei ancora... Leva... Vito?
Yes, thank you. First of all, many thanks, Ezio, for the invitation. I'm very honored to be here, to be a speaker of this important meeting about Earth observation and Africa. So I will share my screen. Let me know if it is okay. Are you able to see the screen? Okay, so I can begin. So as Ezio anticipated before, I will talk about a project that we submitted to ESA. This project is called Ionosaphere, means Safari for Space Academy and Laboratory for Africa Research Innovation. So this project has been presented recently as a response to an ITT, an invitation to tender to the program in the framework of program Africa Research and Development Facility. So I am inspired by previous speaker, because there are a lot of points that was anticipated and are important to describe this project. In particular, Dr. Bourgeot presented how global is today the coverage of the Earth by means of Earth observation satellite sensors of different kind, different countries. But the object of this program, this call, and of course of the project that we submitted to this invitation to tender, is complementary with respect to the availability of this huge amount of data, because it is important that also in the African continent there will be teams, university, companies able to use this data, to be the first user and the first developer of this application. So the objective of this initiative is to construct an African-European partnership to facilitate the adoption of Earth observation and the related technology in Africa. So the difference is that the formulation of the initiative is not feed forward. It's not okay, we want to do something and we do something. We ask for a project about some topics. The difference is that this initiative in the purpose of this call will be driven by the African research challenges and user needs. And also, it is very important that the project will follow a long-term vision, not a short-term vision, for the emerging digital era in Africa. So let me say an introduction of the project, because you know, Europe, under the pressure of government and national agency like Italian Space Agency, German CNES in France, and so on, and also, of course, of the European Space Agency, in the last 40 years are promoted and funded these activities, allowing to the entire Earth observation chain, mean industry, university, research center, agency, to develop enormously. So today, Earth observation in Europe is a very mature sector where many employees are engaged. And Earth observation derived information has become a very important operation tool, also for many end users. This huge development in Europe, for instance, in the Earth observation sector, also driven by the international competition, of course, can be found in other countries like US, Canada, China, and Japan, traditionally at the forefront like Europe in this sector. More recently, also in other countries like India or Argentina, to name just few among the main example. The same development has not been as significant in other parts of the world, and particular, for instance, in Africa. So Africa itself and the implication that this economy development would have, and the need to respond effectively to some of the main challenges of African research, such as responding to the problem of water scarcity, helping food security, monitoring and managing the very fast urbanization, and the need of managing environment and these resources in a sustainable way would greatly benefit from making the best use of space resources to monitor and implement sustainable development policies. So for this reason, there was a call, and we propose a project, the project Safari, that has mainly a dual purpose. So promoting the excellence in Europe in the field of Earth observation, also leveraging on new disciplines like big data technology, cloud processing, artificial intelligence, for the development of application and service ready to be distributed in the African continent. The other purpose, the other goal, is to take advantage of this excellence in the field of Earth observation for their use in monitoring and implementing national and continental sustainable development policies in Africa, so enabling the creating of innovation processes for the development. So which are the Safari principal objectives? Identify and respond to Earth observation research challenges, facilitate, as previously mentioned, the exchange between the community in research development between Africa and Europe, develop algorithms. Dr. Minciacchi mentioned before the need to develop algorithm of Earth observation in Africa and applications adapted to African solutions, fosters innovation to create open source tools, leverage the benefit of cloud computing and development tools in Africa, and the uptake of new technology as crowdsourcing, drone, and IoT in Africa. The Earth observation main activities are instead engage African science and research and development community to identify African research challenges, support research call. One of the purposes to these activities will be organized in 5 tasks, and in this task, for instance, we are calling to support some research call for research in cooperation between European and African researchers. Also, establish a laboratory for digital innovation dedicated to Earth observation application. Very important, set up a bilingual space academy in cooperation, of course, with the UN Training Center, Space University operating in Africa, National Space Agency, that offers EO training courses. Also, the use of online tools like massive online courses will be developed in this project. Moreover, develop a digital space campus for Africa, offering online EO learning training, and promote and communicate what the project will do to all the African community. As mentioned before, the project, if financed, will be organized in 5 tasks. The first task is dedicated to identify the community and the skills of the research center in Africa. A second task is dedicated to the support to research and development. The task 3 is dedicated to development of capacity, so online courses, meetings, conferences, and so on. And then there are 2 tasks. The fourth is related to the promotion and outreach, because it is very important to develop to communicate what the project will do. And finally, at the end of the project, define a research roadmap, not only for the 3 years of the project, but for a long-term point of view. The project involves 10 partners with different skills from 4 countries. You see the list in the slide. Each of these research unit and industrial units has different skills. One of them is, for instance, IGEOS, that presented its important activity for Africa. Also Telespazio France, Terra 2, E2L, and DASO, that is a company specialized for the promotion. And also, of course, university at 2 main, very, very big research institutions, like the National Council of Research in Italy and the Centre National de la Recherche Scientifique, joined with the École Nationale Supérieure in France. Last but not least, it is important that we collected the interest of several institutions in Africa. So also in this case, you have a list of the institutions that provided us their interest in this project and to cooperate in this project. Are from North Africa, Central Africa, South Africa, and in some cases institutions from several countries in Africa. So what I can say now is that of course, in case of financing from ESA, we are very happy to contribute university, big company, research centers, small and medium enterprise to make a contribution to the development of these technologies, not only at observation, but also digital technology, very, very important, emerging in the last years, like big data, cloud computing, artificial intelligence, in order to provide our skills and provide our efforts to develop the knowledge in Earth observation in Africa. I conclude my talk.
Vito, just a second. In the list, there is lacking also the South African contribution.
Yes.
Because they will be somehow the lead of the African involved institutions.
Yes, yes.
Okay, the presence of Phil here is in any case the certification that they are the coordinators of all these activities in Africa.
Yes, of course. Thank you. I conclude my talk.
Okay, thank you very much. Well, we have talked for 1 hour, 30 13, 20 minutes, 30 seconds. I think that we have a few other minutes if we want to intervene. Let me know if any one of you would like to integrate the presentation that he gave before. Is there any wish by our colleagues? Phil, Paolo, Maurice?
One additional word from my side. I saw that you were talking about technology related to the usage of drones. This is something that is coming. For sure, it's again something that we should test in an environment like the one that we can have in Africa. But let's say, as I can tell you that we have a specific department working on drones. We have also identified some interesting technology for defining and findings, let's say, as I can say, in a field where you are having intense agriculture, you can identify some vegetables that can create problems. So this is a very specific application, but let's say the drones is another very important emerging Earth observation sectors that in the future I think can bring a lot of added value to the application and to the and let's say to the final benefit for the users.
Okay, thank you very much. Maurice,
I have one comment as you, if you allow.
Vas-y.
Okay. Well, first of all, many thanks for Vito for your presentation, because it fits perfectly to what I was presenting in terms of EO Africa.
Yeah.
And the what you are proposing with Safari seems very interesting. Let's see how it's an open competition based on ITT, invitation to tender. So let's see the outcome. But I must say that I really like, and you fully understood, and I think this was stressed again by Ezio. This is really about cooperation, and I was very impressed by the long list of partners or partnerships that you have developed in the frame with Africa, and which is part of your proposal. So let's see how this is how this comes along.
We have an advantage. As Vito and I come from the south of Italy, it's much easier to have friends in Africa than other people. Am I right, Phil?
No, in South of Italy, we are friends of everyone in the world, so we are friendly people in general.
Definitely.
So thanks, Maurice, for your comments. The idea, because when we decided to respond to the call, we take a decision. So we could collect the interest of 2 or 3 partners. It's more easy, of course. Much more money for each unit, but we decided to make a project with small amount of money, just the necessary to develop the relative task of each unit. But we prefer to collect really very different skills. We have big companies. e-GEOS is one of the most important companies involved in remote sensing in the world, I can say. It is my opinion, of course, but it is under the observation of every people that works in the remote sensing activities. So we have big companies, we have small companies specialized in some skills, in some activities. We have university with different skills: water, sea, agriculture, forest, urban, suburban. We have university like University of Catalonia that develop small satellites. So I connect the comment of Phil Mihara that they are not very much interested to develop great satellite, but a small satellite is a very different thing. So what we can do is to cooperate with research institution and with the expertise, for instance, in this case, of the Spanish colleague, to cooperate in order to work together, for instance, to the development of small satellite, or, as mentioned before, to the use of drones. And then finally, last but not least, we have the two biggest research institutions in Italy and in France. So CNR and CNRS collect a lot of expertise, a lot of experience, long-term experience in remote sensing. So we think that, okay, it is my opinion on my project. So we think that we cover a lot of problems. We are able to cover a lot of problems from the point of view of the university, of the research, of the courses, so university, of the industry, of the big industry, the small industry. So, and we also have a specialized company for promotion that is very important, because it is important that all the people, all the researchers in Africa will know that there is this project, will know which are the call that we will do. So in the best way, in the fastest way. And so it is important that there is a company specialized in communication, not in Earth observation. Of course, they are expert also in communication in Earth observation, but it is more important that they are expert in communication, to promote our work. So I know it is an open call, but we are confident that not to win the competition, but that our work is a good work. So it is subjective, of course, opinion.
Thanks, Vito. Phil.
Yes, thanks very much, Ezio, and to the esteemed panelists. I think for me, the big question, Ezio, is if we don't succeed with Safari, what do we do?
There will be other projects.
Well, there are other projects. We will try.
There will be a project.
Yeah,
I don't know if it will be Safari, but there will be a project. So
in any case, exactly, we have a project. So if we don't succeed, first of all, we may, in any case, hope that Maurice has to tell us, may present other possibilities in the future. And in any case, it's my idea, with the idea of Vito and the other coordinator, Riccardo Lanari, essentially also to try to ask to our authorities if we can commit Italy in this activity.
Sure. So, even for us in South Africa, working with a few African partners, let's see whether, if it doesn't succeed, we can mobilize resources. We may not do the entire objectives of Safari, but maybe one or two areas of work that would be of interest.
Right.
So let's keep that at the back of our minds. Thank you very much.
In case of, I will also try to commit the Vatican. I don't know, but Pope Francis is very keen and interested in environment. So, and he's Jesuit, a school where I have studied 12 years. So maybe it may help somehow. Look, I want to thank everybody for your attendance. It has been a pleasure. It has been a pleasure because it has been a discussion and a presentation among friends before than being colleagues. And this is very important. I just ask you, to all of you who have presented slides, please let me have these slides so I can then share with the Festival of Diplomacy, and we can provide, if you agree, all the slides to any auditor which could be interested in that. And I hope to see you soon, if possible, directly, and if not, in some other meeting, thanks to this bloody COVID-19. Thank you very much. Bye-bye to everybody.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye, everyone. Thank you, Ezio, again. Thanks to all.